average, women earn 15.3% less than men, and this has barely changed
for 20 years.
The earth, it is our planet. We love the earth, it is our home.
Hello and welcome back to the Global Issue, The Talk. On this episode, we'll be talking about gender equality and be focusing on the area of the gender pay gap. Today we'll be covering 4 areas like usual: historical background, the impact of the issue on local, national and international scales, how it relates to Catholic social teaching and the UN's human rights, and lastly, we'll talk about an organization that is hoping to solve this issue. Now let's go on to the first point of the day, the historical background. Gender equality has been around for as long as humans have been here, and there has always been some sort of discrimination against women throughout time. But now gender equality includes sexuality, which are gay, lesbians, and transgender people are all included. This is because they also don't have equal rights like the rest of the world. Feminism is one of the main movements that focuses on gender equality, which that they want to get equal rights for women and fight gender stereotypes.
Record. Feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. It is the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes.
Even thought there are movements which are trying to get equal rights for women. Women are choosing not to become feminists. This is explained by Emma Watson, who is a feminist herself.
Are choosing not to identify as feminist. Apparently, I am among the ranks of women whose expressions are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, and anti-men, unattractive even.
The past had terrible discrimination against women, and women usually were in the lower classes, while men were up at the top. In the past, men were the people who went to work and made money for the family, while women stayed at home looking after everything. And some women even got punished if they did something wrong. Hardly any women worked in high corporations because women had a low education rate, because they had to stop their education because of childbirth and looking after a child. They also had lower workforce participation. Back in the 80s and 90s, discrimination was legal. It was perfectly fine to pay women less and define gender roles. Things like taking care of children and their house were jobs expected for women to do while men worked, and this has continued to today. Only a small amount of the population believes that women should work full-time when they have children, and this is flipped for men. 70% of Americans believe that men should work more when they have kids. But when a woman does do a full-time job, they still do 9 hours more housework than their male counterparts. When a child is born, this affects the earning for both genders. For male, the earning stays the same or goes higher. But for the females, her earnings drop after childbirth. This is because the mother has to spend more time at home to look after the baby. This has gotten better from the past by male counterparts helping out more around the house, and sometimes the males are the ones who stays home and looks after the child. Unlike the past, when the woman usually did everything around the house, while the male counterpart works and rests at home. The impact of this issue is actually different on local, national, and international scale. Firstly, let's talk about how Canberra is trying to solve the pay gap and what they have done. Then we'll compare this with the national and international scales. In the capitalism early 1990s, paying women the same wage as men was a standard practice for public servants. They all worked under the same pay deal. This was still a goal for other industries, but if Canberra could stop that pay gap for one industry, then it could do it for the rest. That's what you would think. But after Paul Keating began, it deserved the system. People encouraged government agencies to negotiate separate pay deals. But after this, the wage became too widely from workplace to others. Over time, women became the biggest loss. Currently, Canberra has a pay gap of 8.4%. This isn't equal, but compared to the nation's pay gap of 21.4%, other workplaces should look what the bureaucracy have done and learn from it. Australia still has problems with its pay gap with a 21.4% gap, but it's better than some countries. From the yearly report from the UN in 2018, Australia is above the global average, but is still quite low on the report compared to the top 7 countries, which has closed at least 80% of the gap. This report for all the countries barely unchanged from the previous year, so Australia and the rest of the world still has a lot to do to get equal pay for everyone.
I think it is right that women be involved on my behalf in the policies and the decisions that will affect my life. I think it is right that socially I am afforded the same respect as men. But sadly, I can say that there is no one country in the world where all women can expect to receive these rights. No country in the world can yet say that they have achieved gender equality. These rights I consider to be human rights, but I am one of the lucky ones.
Countries that have almost closed the gaps are
Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Nicaragua, Rwanda, and New Zealand.
These are the countries that are the top 7 of the world that have almost closed the gap. If other countries look what they have done and learn from it, the rest of the world could get rid of most of the pay gap. On an international scale, the world still has a long way to go to have equal pay rights for everyone anywhere. The UN Human Rights and Catholic social teaching both has aspects that relates to both gender equality and the gender pay gap. The UN Human Rights articles show many basic rights that women should have in the world that they don't. Example of this is Article 23 and 24. These human rights say that everyone without discrimination should have the right of equal pay, and that people should have the right to rest and leisure. These articles show rights that everyone should have, but a lot of people don't have these basic rights across the world. These articles tell us that everyone should have free choice of employment and equal pay, even though these are basic human rights. Women and other sexualities don't get half of these rights and need to fight for it at protest things and things like that. The Catholic social teaching has some teachings that we could learn from and could help us close the gap even more. The Catholic Church hasn't really grown to current times on gender equality. This is because the Church doesn't allow women to become priests. There isn't many women working in the Church. Also, the Church is still in the times when they believe males should have higher roles than women. Even thought of this, the Church still has good teaching that relates to this issue, and the current Pope is trying to make change. The Catholic social teaching of the dignity of work and the rights of workers say that
work must be undertaken responsibly and labor treated well. This includes how we approach the work we do, what it is we do with our work, and how employers treat their employees.
the main point of this is how employees are treated. This relates to the issue because women employees are treated unfairly by not getting the same pay as male employees and violence against women employees. We can learn from the Catholic society by treating employees equally and just treat people the same no matter the gender. Pope Francis is the head of the Catholic Church, saying that it's pure scandal for women to earn less than men for the same job. Pope Francis believes that as Christian people should become more demanding about these issues, and women have the same right and should be paid the same. Pope Francis has made it clear that he wants more women in the church, but the doors are still closed for women to become priests. The Catholic Church is slowly making change for women to work in the church, but they still have a long way to go to get pure gender equality in the church. There are many organizations that are dealing with gender equality and the pay gap, and many of these are non-profitable organizations. Organizations that are trying to solve this issue and case study is Equality Now and the WGEA. Both of these organizations are people who are working on solving the issue. Equality Now is a non-profitable organization, while WGEA is a government agency which is trying to improve gender equality and focuses on the pay gap. WGEA stands for Workplace Gender Equality Act. The WGEA legislation aims to improve and promotes equality for both women and men in the workplace. Things that the WGEA are doing to try and solve the pay gap are
promote and improve gender equality, including equal remuneration between women and men in employment and in the workplace, support employers to remove barriers to the full and equal participation of women in the workforce, promote, amongst employers, the elimination of discrimination on the basis of gender in relation to employment matters, including in relation to family and caring responsibilities, foster workplace consultation between employers and employees on issues concerning gender equality in employment and in the workplace, improve the productivity and competitiveness of Australian business through the advancement of gender equality in employment and in the workplace.
The WGEA is doing a lot of things to solve the gender pay gap and is helping many employees across the country with problems. Thanks for watching this video about the serious social justice issue of gender equality. We hope you have learned a lot about this issue and case study. And be back next time for Global Issues The Talk. I'm your host from the Department of Communication in the United Nations. I hope you enjoyed this episode on gender equality. Goodbye!